Furrie, and I'm super excited to be bringing the very intriguing and very cool Katrina Olson-Mottahed as my guest today. We have got so much that I want to be talking about. So, but just to give you a bit of a quick idea about who Katrina is and how we connected. Katrina is the director of Canif, which is the Canadian International Film Festival. And she is also a mom. She's a mom of two girls.
Two girls, and I have a stepdaughter.
Two girls and a stepdaughter. So you're a mom of three. Three. And she's also a cultural curator, which is a really a phrase that I'm going to let Katrina dive into a little bit more in a second here. But I just would like to say a big welcome, Katrina, and thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Yes, for those
we're recording this on Valentine's Day.
We are recording this on Valentine's Day, so I don't exactly know when this will air yet, but love is in the air here in Calgary today. So Katrina, can you start off by telling us a little bit, maybe explain what you mean by being a cultural curator? What does that mean?
Sure. So I studied art. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Calgary, so I am an alumni there. And I guess my kind of mandate in Calgary and in the city with my arts background is to take whatever connections I have and utilize them to help out arts organizations in whatever capacity I can, plus get involved in whatever I can so that I can spread the word about different music events that are going on in the city, or fashion events, or theater, anything that I just find really intriguing in the city. So I try to put that stuff together on my blog, but I also end up doing a lot of lifestyle stuff as well.
Yeah. So you're sort of like a hub. Is that kind of how you almost think of it? Like you're sort of this like center point for these things?
So I try to keep everything that, especially like my friends in the city, that they're involved in. And I try to keep it in one kind of common spot, which is on my blog. But I mean, I initially had started writing that because I had friends who were artists who I wanted to feature. They had shows coming up and I wanted to spread the word about it. And then it was an opportunity for me to use my photography background. So I take a lot of pictures and put them on my blog or my Instagram of things that I'm doing around the city. And then also I went back and studied film when I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I really wanted to write those film reviews, especially of independent or Canadian films that don't get reviewed a lot, so that there was a place for people to come and see them. So I started writing movie reviews as well. And I think that was like, I want to say it's like 8 years ago already.
So is that, sorry,
and I read
go ahead.
movies
Sorry, so was that like writing those film reviews? Would you say that's kind of where because did you found Canif, or was that already an online?
I founded Canif in 2015, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going into your third year then?
Yes, the third year at the film festival.
The film festival. And you do showings here in Calgary, and then you also, well, you do international showings too, right? Like you have to go to Toronto and then.
So Canif is the Canadian International Fashion Film Festival.
Yeah.
Fashion film is kind of a new genre, especially in the festival circuit. There's some really big fashion film festivals around the world, and now Canif luckily is one of them. But we've showed this year at Istanbul Fashion Film Festival. We had a showing at the Commissioners in London. And then we did Toronto Fashion Week last year. I don't think we'll do it this year because it's just really busy, and the festival is going to be coming up in Calgary on May 4th. And 5th.
May 4th. And how many days does it run for?
It's just going to be one day of screenings, and then there'll be an event, like a dinner event prior to it.
Okay. I'm sure we'll circle back to it, but I don't want to forget, for people that are interested in this fashion film festival, first of all, is everyone welcome, or
it's open to the public.
It's open
to the public. There is going to be 2 panel discussions, which we're bringing in guests to speak about fashion film, and then there's going to be 3 screenings, which will be the official selections, the official nominations, then the winning film component as well.
Very cool. And where can people find details, get tickets, like all that kind of stuff? How can they get more information?
It's all on our website, and that's just Canif with 3Fs.com. So CANIFFF.com.
Okay, so triple F, CANIFFF.com.
Yeah.
Awesome, excellent. And so okay, so yeah, and that was one of my questions, was what inspired you to start Canif? And I think you've kind of touched on that. Like,
I mean, I really love experimental film, and actually there's another film festival that's coming up March 6th to 8th in Calgary called the Small Artifact Film Festival, which was formerly the $100 Film Festival, put on by CSIF. And that one is all experimental films on 8mm and 16mm formats. And I'm in love with that festival as well. So I really love experimental film, but I also love fashion. So when I found out these films were being made for online content for fashion and then being screened at little fashion film festivals around the world, I thought, well, nobody's really doing this in Canada. So I wanted to bring that here as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to coming and seeing it.
Yeah, I can't wait to have you there this year.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. And so how Katrina and I met is through a really good mutual friend of ours, Stasha. And Katrina also, in addition to the film festival, you also run this like ladies and the arts, kind of like a social club sort of idea. I don't really know exactly what you call it, but I ended up on this like guest list and I was like, this is cool. So I've been out to, I think maybe like two or three of your events that you've done. But can you talk a little bit about what sort of inspired you to want to bring together women around fashion and supporting the arts, like kind of where that idea came from?
And I love to eat, so that helps.
Yeah, food, of course.
But no, I just had so many girlfriends who I never get to spend enough time with, and we're all busy and we have families or careers, and we'd always say, oh, let's get together and put it off for another month or whatever. And then I had arts organizations as well that would be like, oh, I have this show we're promoting, could you help us promote it? And I'm like, well, you know what would be a really great idea is to marry these two things, my social life with my friends and the arts. So I started organizing these dinners for women in the arts. And the first one we did, I think, was with Calgary Opera. Was it?
I think that was the first one.
Theater Junction Grand. It was a Theater Junction Grand.
Oh yeah, it was the flip book.
Yeah.
The flip photos.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
So that was the first one we did, and then they grew from there. Every time there was more women coming, and it became more and more fun because all of us in Calgary, it's such a small city, it's 7 degrees of separation. Yeah. So we all end up knowing someone in common and end up having a great time together. And I know like professionally people can connect too then with other women that they haven't worked with before. So yeah, it's been really great.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that definitely happened. There was someone that I'd been like Instagram stalking.
Yeah.
And when she walked in, I was like, oh, I feel like I know you from Instagram. Yeah. And so we ended up connecting through that. And we've been trying to get together for a coffee and stuff like that. But it's just like what you said, like everyone is kind of connected, and it's just fun getting a group of people together, a group of women together that just all have this kind of similar interest in arts and with fashion. And, you know, depending upon where people are listening to this video, this interview, you know, I'm born and raised in Calgary. Like, are you from Calgary originally?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Well, yeah. Technically, I was born in Edmonton.
Okay, we won't tell anybody.
I moved to Calgary when I was 4, so I've been here my whole life.
Yeah, and Calgary's changed a lot, and I'm sure that you can, being from Calgary, you can relate to this too. Yeah. You know, back in the day, like I went to Western, I was on 17th Avenue, I was really into clothes, I loved like Divine Decadence and vintage shopping, and I would like save up all my money, but I was like, I won't say I was the only one, but there was a pretty small crowd of people that were really dressing up and going out. Like I was like obsessed with like the Warehouse and the Night Gallery and all these like fun kind of venues. And I loved getting dressed up and the fashion side of it, but there wasn't a lot of that going on in Calgary. And, you know, and flash forward another 20 years now, not to kind of, you know, age ourselves or date us, but I find Calgary's like the sort of the willingness to embrace a little more playfulness with fashion seems to be growing and expanding along with the presence of art in the city in general. Like there's a lot more public art installations, like with our Mayor Nenshi, and just seems to be this movement to like more and more creativity and art. Part of that might just be my awareness of it, but I don't think so. Like I've always been really kind of tapped into the fashion scene. I used to like, you know, do like be in local fashion shows. I've just kind of always been around it and doing makeup and all that stuff. And it just seems like it's kind of coming to life more and more here. Would you agree that it seems to be something that's picking up momentum?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, honestly, organizations like PARC, which stands for Promoting Artists Redefining Culture, I mean, they're in their 10th year this year. So they're going to be having their PARC show runway show in June, and they do that twice a year, where they give a platform to emerging designers in the city and artists. And I think, you know, that this past decade that they have made a big impact on the city as far as fashion designers, artists, people who want to do production, like fashion production, photographers. There's been a whole little industry that's grown around that organization, and I was part of it for 4 years. I met so many great women through it as well, and men. And I mean, I think organizations like that, there's tons of little organizations too that are coming up and growing that are doing more fashion stuff as well these days. But that one definitely, and I know because I was part of it, has had a big impact on the designers and artists in the city.
Yeah, PARC's great. I went to their PARC forum that they hosted 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and it's just great, like just even being in that space, and you know, they brought in such great speakers speaking on, you know, launching, you know, your fashion line and like kind of more like the business side of all of this industry. But, anyway, yeah, I agree. I think it's a great group. So
and that's the thing, like that's the thing. If you have a platform for these kinds of arts, then there's you know, there's people who see it and are encouraged to do it. There's people who support it, and it becomes full circle, right? To keep these people here and keep creating here, which is really important for the city.
Yes. What would you have to say to anyone who might be listening, or just kind of anybody in general who might find the whole scene a bit intimidating, where they're kind of like, oh, it'd be fun to go to like a PARC show, or it'd be fun to, I'd like to, how do I find out about like, you know, art openings? Like what do you have any suggestions or tips around how to mentally approach something like that? Like in terms of like how welcoming it's going to be, and maybe how to sort of become more tapped into that world.
Okay, my best suggestion for all of these organizations, if you find them intimidating, there's always volunteer opportunities with galleries, with these organizations. They need volunteers to help with ticket sales, with, you know, promoting them, or the actual events, being there and ushering, things like this. So it allows you a way into the organization where you're, first of all, supporting it. You get to meet all kinds of people inside, which helps develop your own interests and you know, grow your friend group in the city in the arts. So I think volunteering is the best starting point for anyone who's interested in arts or fashion and wants to explore that, because I mean, tickets can be expensive. And I remember at the mayor's debate for the arts that they did before the election, that I heard that come up a couple times of people saying, well, these arts, you know, the tickets to these shows are so expensive. And it's like, yes, that's true. And they are, because it's expensive to put them on. The production value is high and we want to keep them at that level. But there's always opportunities for people to volunteer, and that just costs your time, right? So I think that's a really good way to enrich your life and to experience things in the city.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. I think that's a great suggestion. And I mean, I even did that, you know, sometimes I have like, you know, if I meet like someone that's interested in getting into, say, makeup or something like that, like they're new to it. And they're often asking me, you know, like, what school should I go to and what training, education do I need? One of my first suggestions back is get a job. Like if you can, go work at Sephora, go work at Shoppers, go, you know, like try to get your foot in. And then the second piece, of course, is volunteers, exactly like what you're saying, you know. And I still love volunteering. I still volunteer for fashion events and all that kind of stuff, because it's exactly what you said. Like it's a great way to meet people, and I mean, it's the only thing you're giving up is your time. And it's just a great way to connect and to, you know, if you're trying to build like resume building or whatever it looks like, there's nothing but really great benefits to come from volunteering.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
So you're a mom, and
I'm a mom.
I'm a mom.
My side hustle is always being a mom.
Your side hustle's being a mom. So, well, so I've got kind of like two prongs to my mom questioning that I want to ask you about. So first of all, and I'll say both of them and then we'll circle back. I just don't want to forget. One is, you know, how you actually handle the time management, the priority juggling of being a mom, and then having this like serious passion and the serious interest on this, not on the side, but like this other big part of your life. And then the other question, and maybe we'll start with this one I'll ask now, is when you became a mom, like I'm assuming you've always enjoyed fashion and art and dressing up, and maybe not, but I'm gonna guess that's probably pretty true. When you became a mom, did you experience, or what was your experience of becoming a mom in terms of its impact on your sense of self? And how did how you presented yourself, did that change, or did you go through kind of like the schleppy mom period where you sort of had to like, because that's my experience, right?
We all have.
Like,
we've all lived in our basements with our kids in our sweatpants.
Yeah.
Days that you haven't, I mean, weeks maybe, when you have little kids where you haven't washed your hair for 4 days.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you have an event in the evening and you can get a sitter and you're exhausted, but you just slam a couple coffees and get through it.
So, but you had that experience, like when your kids came in,
yes.
did you go through like this big kind of like not meltdown in terms of like, but just like kind of, did your sense of self get sort of like deconstructed, and then did you kind of rebuild yourself post kids, or how do you feel like you changed?
I think it was ongoing throughout the process of having kids, because I was in university when I had my second daughter, and I had her on a Friday and I was back in class on Monday. And I remember my professor being like, "Didn't you just have a baby?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." But I mean, the classes are only an hour long, and I didn't have a lot of classes. So maybe I had 2 classes a day at the time. So it was actually a nice little mental break. When you go there and you listen, you have some adult time and you listen to your professor and you come home, and I would do my reading when the kids were asleep. It was very, very difficult though. Like I didn't finish my film degree because my kids, I think I have 7 courses left to finish that degree. But my kids were just awake all night, and then I couldn't do my readings anymore. So so that's why, I mean, I wanted to write on the film and stuff. And the schleppy period, I mean, we've had it, right? We've all had it. But you have to do things like little things like wash your hair. That to me, you know, if you had a way to put your baby in like the those little Bjorn chairs and put it in front of the shower and wash your hair and do your makeup, you feel like a brand new person, you know?
Yeah. So like I mean, if you had to kind of think back to that period, kind of like there's like the really in the like thick of things with like newborn babies and fatigue, and you know, you're just kind of in day by day where something like washing your hair feels like a big win. Right. But when you started coming out of that a little bit more and kids are starting to get a little bit older again, like whatever age that was for you, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. I think 3 and 4 is the age you can really get your, you know, your wits back, because you can actually sleep.
You're sleeping. And it's so easy to underestimate what a huge impact sleep makes. Like, gosh. You have no idea.
I know why they do sleep deprivation as a torture method to prisoners, because when you haven't slept for a long time, your perception of everything is off.
Totally off. Yeah, like your clarity of thought, motivation, patience, all those things. But so when you kind of hit that stage, like when your girls were kind of starting to grow up a little bit, do you remember any kind of like conscious steps that you took to really start to like redefine or reclaim your real like bigger, more sort of out there self? Like do you remember, like was there any books that you read that you really liked, or any people that you connected with, or was it, do you ever feel like you maybe never really lost yourself that much? Like,
No, I don't feel like I did really lose myself that much, but I also give a lot of credit to that to my best friend, because she had an older child, and so she had kind of been through it, and she never let me stay at home. And when I felt like, oh, I just want to stay home tonight and be in my sweatpants, she's like, no, go get your makeup on, go have a shower, we're going out. And she would force me out of my comfort zone. And I think that, as far as you're saying, like, is influential, that was the biggest thing for me, of, you know, taking that me time and going to get dressed up and look nice and feel good about yourself when you're out with your friends. And that's, to me, the biggest thing is, and that's like a support network thing, right?
yeah. Yeah, because I find that, like, not all of my clients, but a lot of the women that I work with that have been kind of coming out of being at home with children, like, again, they're at that kind of stage where they're maybe starting to think about going back into the workforce, or they're kind of at that stage. And I find that that is often kind of the meat of it, is that they are getting dressed and going out. Like, there's sort of this kind of hesitation or fear
Or guilt.
around,
Or guilt.
well, oh God, there can be the guilt. Like, if they haven't taken time, like, they haven't really built up that muscle in terms of being away from the children.
Right. And then they feel guilty. And it's like, your kids also need time away from you.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
When you've seen them for too long and you look crazy, you're not doing them any favors.
No, it's very true. But then people can also use kids as an excuse, right? Because frankly, the idea of getting dressed up and going out with girlfriends, for example, if you haven't done that in a while, if it's been a while, you feel like, oh, my wardrobe's kind of out of date. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing with my makeup. I have my hair's been in a ponytail for 2 years straight.
Right.
And I find it can be like, what I had to do for myself, and what I often tell a lot of my clients, is create a reason to force yourself to get out. Kind of like what you said with your girlfriend, who was like, okay, Katrina, come on, we're going, even if you don't feel it.
Or even back to the volunteering. Like, I volunteered for, I think, Art City Board at the time. I was on the committee for the Glenbow Museum for Schmancy. So it was like a 9 o'clock meeting once a week, but it was a reason to get out of the house and contribute something to society other than just being with my kids, which is also important. But when you contribute something to something bigger than yourself, you feel like you've done something too, right? So
totally. Yeah, that's that whole giving back. I mean, that's very much my whole, I mean, all of this ties back, a lot of it is very personal for me, in the sense that that was part of my reason for launching the business that I launched. A small part of it was to just create that structure and that reason for me to get up and get going again. It's a small part of it. It's obviously a much bigger reason than that. And then also that whole giving back piece, right? I mean, my whole thing is, I'm very much in service. Like, everything I do is in service of supporting my clients, which are like 99% women.
Right.
So feel good, look good, get up, get out, and go do things that help to make the world a better place, right? Like, contribute in some way. 'Cause we're limited in how we can contribute when we're at home, feeling kind of like contracted, and we're just not our big, expansive, confident self, right?
That, and another important part to that, because I have daughters and I grew up with a mom who worked full time out of the house most of the time, I think it's really important for girls to model that behavior and to show them that you have your own interests. And yes, you can be a mom and you can have a family and you can make all of those things work, as well as having your own interests in contributing to society.
Yeah. That was one of my questions for you, was what sort of beliefs or values are you making a conscious effort to model for your children, especially having them be girls, but I mean, regardless of gender, regardless if you've got boys or girls.
Right.
Yeah. And that's
and my best friend has boys, so it's the same thing, and we've talked about it so many times, is having them be comfortable that has a mom that works and goes outside of the house and contributes something. Because I don't want them to think, oh, this is the be all and end all. You go to university, you get married, and then you have kids, and then it's over. Like, why did you study? No, you have interests. You have interests of your own that are very important. And contributing something to the society is you're meeting new people, you're making new friends, and then you have this other support network outside of your family too, that if God forbid something ever happens to you, you have other people that, rely on you and help support you if you need it.
That's a good point. Yeah, it is very true. Even on a more sort of like, practical level too. it's one of those things, like you said, God forbid if something were to happen, keeping yourself more employable too, right? Like that's,
Totally.
I mean, I
Totally.
don't like to put energy there and kind of think that way, but we
No,
have
but
to,
it's true.
it's true. You know, you have to keep your skill set up, and because we can't, I mean, there's no guarantees in life. And again, we're putting ourselves at risk as women, anybody, any kind of stay-at-home person, be that a man or a woman,
Yeah.
completely step back from developing our own interests and our own skill set. You know, so there's so many reasons to kind of get out there and be active, even though it doesn't always seem easy, or kind of like what does that look like? You know, there are so many bigger reasons for doing that.
Totally.
So back to then being a mom and, you know, kind of fitting all this stuff in.
Yeah.
Do you have any like nuggets of wisdom? Because I mean, your girls are a little bit older, right? Like
they're 8 and 9 and 18 now.
Okay.
But the biggest thing for me, which is a privilege and I get it, but was having a nanny, because I wouldn't have been able to get out of the house with 3 kids and 3 dogs. Like there's just no way. So I've always had a full-time nanny, but I think it's important for kids to like go to daycare and have other things as well, for their moms to get out and spend time with them, like whether it's those library meetups, right, where you bring your kids and they read stories, just things like that, where you can get out and meet people as well.
Yeah. And did you ever have any mommy guilt having a nanny? Did you ever kind of feel like, oh, I should be home with the kids
People
more?
say that, and people make rude comments like, oh, I wouldn't want someone else raising my kids, and I'm like, but I'm home working. She's my domestic assistant.
Yeah.
You know, like we work together, and I was really, that nanny that I had when my kids were little, we were like best friends. She lived with me. My husband travels a lot for work. So it was like having a best friend here. And she was so great with like basic nutrition. Like she would make smoothies, and like she read so much, and she was a very interesting person. And I think she was the reason why I was able to do all these things as well. I mean, I don't think I would have ever been able to do half the stuff that I did without her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what that kind of boils down to is get help, right? I think so many women, and I'm certainly don't exclude myself from this category. It can be hard we kind of feel like we want to be like the super women, right? Like that we're the do it all. Like I'm going to, you know, be a full-time mom and run a full-time film festival and a business and get out with my girlfriends and get to the gym 5 days a week and all these things. And the reality is no one is doing all that stuff without help. Like there's some kind of
that's the reality. I mean, a lot of people have parents that are available to them. I mean, my parents were working and retired and not living in Calgary, so I didn't have that option. But a lot of people have that kind of support, and it's so important to utilize it. Yeah.
It is totally. And especially I think for, say, working, you know, anyone it's kind of one of those things too. What am I trying to say here? Like the piece where it's like, oh gosh, to pay for childcare feels like it takes up everything I make, right? Like you hear that from a lot of women, because childcare is notoriously expensive, quality childcare. But again, it's always remembering that it's part of this like bigger picture. It's not just simply dollars in, dollars out.
Or I have friends that will exchange childcare with each other, right? They'll watch their kids on one day and the other one will watch their kids on another day, just so they can have a day, you know, to maybe go get their hair done or go to an exercise class and something. Just go by themselves to a movie during the day, which feels like a big luxury sometimes.
It does. You know, and even for those women too, who maybe either don't have kids or kids are a bit older, that whole idea too, like what you just said of taking some time for yourself is super important. Like, so even if it's not like a break from children, to be scheduling, and it's scheduling because we're busy, right? Like most modern day women are busy, like calendars are full, and it can be so easy to kind of fall into this mindset of like, I'm too busy. I don't have time to take care of myself. And then it can just start to feel like a grind, frankly, where it's like, go, work. And then we kind of reach, you know, it's like that proverbial, your head hits the pillow at the end of the night and you're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what is this all about? Right. So like, what are some things that you like to do that, I mean, outside of maybe your art stuff, because it's obvious that you love that and that's like a big, that fills you up. But what are some self-care things that you like to do for yourself that you make a conscious effort to schedule into your calendar and make happen?
Um, I'm saying this, and I'm going to get my eyebrows done tomorrow, and I haven't had them done since before Christmas. Um, so, I mean, things fall by the wayside with everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean, exercise is so important. And I know when I don't exercise, I start to become pretty miserable. You know, my outlook on life becomes not as optimistic. I'm not as I don't have as much energy. I feel like I'm like meh, meh about stuff. I just think like that's one thing that I've learned, especially in my 30s, is that I really need to take time for myself to exercise at least 3 times a week, even if it's just like going for a walk or taking stairs when you can. Those things, because when your clothes fit, you feel so much better about yourself. And I know all of us have done that as moms, where we wore Lululemons for like too many weeks and didn't put our jeans on. And then you go to put your jeans on and you're like, oh my God, why can't I do my jeans up?
Yeah.
But it happens so quickly. So I feel like taking care of your health, like making sure you're taking supplements, making sure that you're eating healthy, and not, because it's really hard to when you're on the go, just like grabbing fast food or grabbing something from Starbucks. Like, it's taking the time to make healthy meals for yourself and or smoothies, whatever it is, to get your supplements and then to exercise. I think that's the most important thing, because as soon as your physical health starts to deteriorate, you're useless in every other aspect of your life.
Yeah, it's true. I talk about that a lot too. I'm the same way. Like if I'm not exercising,
Yeah.
like what you said, everything else starts to fall apart. I'm like a raging bitch, frankly.
Right? And I don't sleep as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, and I'll do that where I'm like, I have so much on my plate, like I feel so swamped, like emails out of control, and I've got clients waiting on me, and I'm like, and I need to go for a run. Like it's like,
that's why you were saying about the scheduling. It's so important to just pre-book yourself a schedule, like a workout class or time to go to the gym, and just don't give anything up for it. Just be like, nope, that's my gym time. That's it.
Yeah, it's true, because otherwise it's one of the first things that most women anyway, will bump.
Totally.
A lot will. And I think that that's like a big sort of attitude that I think women that seem to successfully stick with exercise, it's basically a non-negotiable. It's like everything else can wait. Kids can wait, husband can wait, work can wait. My run can't, or I know you love, it's barbell that you like to go to. Is that, like, it's like whatever
I've been just doing it since August, and that really works for me right now. So that's why I love it.
Yeah, totally. And it's just finding what works for you. And then it's absolutely non-negotiable. So let's talk a little bit more about, okay, so first of all, your skin and your hair is like stunning. You're like this like ethereal, like glowing angel. And honestly, everyone that's watching this live or like watching this video, the way Katrina looks on the video is like how she looks in person. So there's no like voodoo, weird, like, you know, magic going on here. Like this is what she looks like. So okay, so first of all, whatever you're comfortable sharing, obviously not going to ask you to share things you're not comfortable sharing, but first of all, let's talk about your skin. So what are you doing with your skin to get it, like, it's so flawless and like smooth and beautiful and translucent? So like, talk to us about your skin.
I don't know. I've been seeing Annie from Exo Treatment Room for quite a while, and I've been using the same skincare religiously. And then she just came out with her own line of skincare. So I've been using she has 2 products. One's a mist, and then the other one's a moisturizer, and they're a lot more moisturizing than the other products I was using. So I'm like overly moisturizing all the time. And I put so much oil on my skin at night, which I think people think oil clogs your pores, but I have very thin, crepey skin. And so I feel like it needs so much moisture, or I get fine lines very easily. So the moisturizing of skin for me is a big one.
Yeah.
Sleep. Oh my God, sleep for my skin is the most important thing. I don't know if you notice that, but if I get like 2 hours less sleep, I wake up and it's like all dark under here, and the whole tone of my skin is not nice.
Yeah. Sleep has a super big influence on, Well, everything, like in addition to exercise, you know, kind of looping back to what we were just talking about, I think that's the other big thing. Like when I really started getting my like shit together, that was a big thing, was sleep, because I'm cutting into my sleep, like where I would be like, oh, I've got so much to do. I'm going to, you know, stay up late and then I'm going to get up early. And it was just like that classic, like burning the candle at both ends.
Totally.
And that was just crazy making. And finally I was like, this is insane. I need to sleep, and I need like 8 hours, like 7. I'm fine with 7, but 8 is ideal.
But that, and I don't know if this is attributing to this, but I have a satin pillow that I bought, which is supposed to be so much better for your skin and your hair because it doesn't absorb oil like cotton does.
I've heard about satin pillows, and it's also supposed to not like crease and add wrinkles.
I mean, anything that I feel like helps, I try it.
Yeah.
So that, the biggest, like obviously anti-aging wise, is sunscreen, like never exposing your face to sun.
So do you, so what sunscreen do you like, first of all?
I love Shiseido. They have like a 70. And for me, I'm so fair that I feel like I need something like that. So I really love that. And Roche-Posay has a really nice one as well, which I think is like a 50, and I'll use that on my body. But I always have a hat on. I always, like if I'm going to run outside and the sun's out, I have long sleeves covering my whole arms, because I just, my grandma's so fair and she has so many age spots. And I'm like, I just don't want to have all those age spots.
Yeah. So even in the summer, like you're not tanning, like you really watch the sun.
Yeah. I mean, I feel even in my car, I have my visor down and I'm like conscious of it, like trying not to. But I mean, my foundation has SPF 30 in it, I believe. So yeah, I think like sunscreen is just really important.
For sure. That's one of the benefits of, like, I meet a lot of women that are a bit sort of hesitant around makeup. And I find often it's foundation. People talk about, oh, I don't want it to be bad for my skin and all these kinds of concerns, which, I mean, they're valid concerns, but one of the things that I often say to people is, you know, one of the big benefits of wearing foundation is it acts as a sunblock. Like
there's even powders now, right? Like there's powder foundations that have sunscreen in them. So if somebody doesn't want to put like the cakey foundation, then they can just put a powder on, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure. But it is one of those benefits of wearing, like I've read somewhere studies that have, you know, they've looked at women that have worn makeup that have always been in the habit of wearing foundation, and women that never wear anything on their skin, and the women that are always wearing foundation, oftentimes their skin is better because it's been protected from the sun. So it's not something that's not an obvious thing that a lot of women would think about as one of the benefits of foundation, but it does act as a sunblock. It's not going to be as high as like a, you know, the Shiseido 70 block or anything like that, but it definitely does have some protection to it.
And I don't wear that Shiseido one every day. I would wear it if I'm on vacation or it's summer and I know I'm going to go outside. Otherwise, I wear like a Clarins foundation that has a lot of botanicals in it, and it just has SPF 30 built into it. So
right. Yeah, I've heard for most people, like day to day, SPF of about 30 is good for most day to day. Any other treatments? Like, do you go for facials? Do you do like laser? Laser?
And I've been doing, like, I really love the oxygen facial that Annie has at Exo Treatment Room, because it just infuses your cells with oxygen. So all those fine lines are puffed up and your face just looks really good. Like if you have an event coming up, I love to do something like that. What else? I mean, that's my favorite facial. I love doing masks at home as well. Just buying masks from Sephora and just laying in your bathtub with the mask. I love the black charcoal mask that pulls everything out of your skin. I think that's great. There's an Origins mask that's a hydrating mask that you can actually sleep in, and it's just like drenches your skin with moisture. That I love that. So I mean, I like masking too, but I don't do that as often as I'd like to, probably.
Yeah, like lying around and just relaxing. Right? I know. Sounds
or
great.
Or the people that wear the face masks, like the sheet masks on the airplane. I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I never remember my sheet mask when I get there. So
yeah, that's definitely, that's showing some real commitment to beauty and self-care to be doing that.
Right.
And then hair. So obviously, like, so you're very fair, or you're naturally blonde.
I'm naturally, like, my hair color is actually, my natural color is very close to what yours is right now.
Yeah.
I bleached my hair. I've been dyeing my own hair for a long time, and I have to, like, to keep this platinum color, I do it like every 3 weeks at least.
And
Yeah.
you do it yourself?
Yeah.
You do it yourself?
Yeah, because I really don't have time to go every 3 weeks and spend 2 hours at a salon when I can do it by myself and it literally takes me 20 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's impressive.
And it's one solid color, so I'm not doing highlights, which it also, I just do my roots so then it doesn't wreck the rest of my hair.
Yeah, and then are you toning? You must be toning it after. Are you putting like a toner through it of some
Yeah,
sort?
just like either the silver toner or the purple shampoo. It just gets rid of all the brassiness out of the
Yeah.
roots stuff.
And then what do you do to keep it like silky and healthy and all those good things? Like, do you have
Oil.
any oil?
Oil. I love the Bumble and Bumble. There's a dry oil, and they also have like, I think it's called hairdresser's oil, but constantly just putting oil.
Yeah.
I love it, like putting oil in the ends because this kind of blonde dries out really quickly. So I mean, I'm not one of those people who lets my hair air dry. I have to blow dry it, and it's. I mean, I use a curling iron on it a lot, so I'm constantly just putting oil on it, hoping it's not gonna break off.
Well, it looks great. It always looks like super. Whenever I see, I spotted you that one day at the Glencoe, and I just knew from behind. I'm like, that's gotta be Katrina. Like nobody has hair like yours. Like it's just like silky.
Aw, thank you. Thanks.
Beautiful. So okay, so so you've got a really fun sense of style. Like, if anyone has a chance, definitely go check out Katrina's, like her Instagram feed and, like your blog and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you obviously have a lot of fun with like fashion and clothes. So where did this, like, how did your style develop? Like, can you kind of, like, how would you describe your style? And like, kind of just talk to us about kind of the origins of your sense of style.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I remember looking at editorials and stuff. And my grandma used to get Vogue and Elle magazine. I remember looking at those as like a child and being like aspiring, aspiring to one day have that kind of a personal style. And actually, that grandma was always really, really nicely put together. So I feel like I always look to her too, like thinking back how she always had lipstick on. Like she was very simple in her style, but she always had a scarf and she always had lipstick on. And always had her hair done nicely. So there's like little things that I really admired that I mean, I want to emulate those in my own style. But yeah, it's, I think just putting on things that you love that make you feel good. You know, I love color. I love makeup. I love to do like a lot of makeup, but I know sometimes it's a bit much maybe for people, especially when you have such fair hair, but I love color. I love wearing it in this city when the winter is like this and you're going out, like you need something to make you feel alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like makeup, like bright colored dresses and stuff, and really I just love accessories too, like purses and shoes and jewelry. Those things can really, you can take something so simple and make them look really spectacular with accessories.
Yeah. So would you say a lot of your wardrobe is more simple and then you have more fun with the accessories, or do you also have quite a few kind of fun, more fashion forward pieces?
Yeah, no, I try to collect pieces that are like unique. And I know like I'll buy a dress, you can really only wear it probably 3 times because then everybody in the city has seen it. You wear it to an event. But you know, once you have a few of those dresses, you can bring them out every once in a while and change accessories and they look different. So I try to collect pieces rather than, I mean, in the past, I had a lot of like black, very similar little dresses and I'm like, I'm not even wearing them. So I just try to go for stuff that's more unique now.
And so this piece is like, so do you collect and then are you just like, do you hang on to stuff or do you kind of like flip your wardrobe? Like, how do you manage your wardrobe?
Well, I have now a stylist who I'm working with, which helps a lot. She comes in and looks at all my stuff and she knows, because she knows where I am and what I'm wearing. She's like, I haven't ever seen you wear this, try it on. And then, yeah, it doesn't look right on your body. So let's get rid of it. And I'll consign stuff. There's a lot of stuff though that I've had for a long time. Like there's Pucci pieces, Emilio Pucci pieces I bought in like 2005 that I will wear forever. And they're really bright colored. And I mean, that 60s Emilio Pucci pattern. You pull them out once every couple years. And I mean, those are fun, right? Things like that. Or like a DVF wrap dress, for example. I mean, that's something you get, like a cheetah print wrap dress, and you could wear that 100 different ways. But I mean, cheetah is pretty basic too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that you're working with a stylist. So even though you love clothes and you know how to dress yourself, what made you decide to bring in someone to help you?
Because I had too many things in my closet that I wasn't wearing. And so I was like, she's almost like a fashion psychologist. like, why do you keep buying the same dress over and over, Katrina, and you're not even wearing it? And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good question. So now I think of the things that her and I have talked about, things that are better for my body, because I'm only 5'4". I'm not very tall. And I kept buying like culottes or crop pants. I mean, I have short legs. That's not something I should be wearing. It's not flattering. But I see it in like Victoria Beckham, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that look. But she's just petite all around. Like, we don't have the same body type. So it's nice to have somebody who's a second set of eyes to see you from outside yourself and rationalize like why things don't work on your body, or what kind of things that you should be wearing for your body type.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I find that often going in where I'll go into like a client's closet and I'm like, that's interesting. You've got 8 white knit sweaters, and like, are you wearing these? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about this. Like, why do you keep buying these? And because, you know, we can become very blind to our own kind of habits and our default patterns that we have.
Yeah, like I had a big obsession with cowl neck sweaters. Like, they're not attractive. I don't know why I kept buying them. Like, I had 12 different colors of cowl neck sweaters, but I mean, yeah, I'm over it now.
Yeah. Well, we get in kind of like how we get in like a food kick where we're like eating spirulina smoothies every day for a year or whatever. We can do the same thing with our wardrobes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, and sometimes too, it's like, even if something doesn't look good on us, sometimes I think, like, and I think it's kind of balancing out, like you know, sometimes I talk to people and they're really worried about, well, what looks good on me and what's in fashion. And they're so focused on that, where it's like, okay, well, step back. You know, what do you like to wear? Maybe you like to wear crop pants and you're 5'4", and that's okay. But maybe you just need like one pair. You don't need to like,
exactly,
wear them, like, let that be what you're wearing all the time, you know? Because I do find that it's kind of balancing out like the objective, like, how does this objectively look on me? How flattering is this?
Then also to the practicality of like, what do you do for a living? What are you out doing every day? I mean, if you're in an office and you need to be wearing a blazer, you should have more of that than Lululemon pants. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, get into habits of buying stuff, and not because we need it. It's just a habit, which I'm really consciously trying to not do that now.
Yeah. Or we buy clothes for a life that we wish we had, but we don't. It's kind of like our aspirational, like, well, when I go to that fabulous party with Kate Moss in London, our dress is going to be perfect. Oh, wait, I probably am not doing a lot of that. So I don't need.
Well, guess what? My advice is to wear that outfit for that life and do it anytime. If that's how you feel, just do it.
Totally. I agree. And it's, totally, but it's
I really appreciate though when I go out in Calgary and I see someone who's wearing something that I would have never expected to see at like Earl's Tin Palace. Like when someone's wearing something that's so, you know, fashion forward and it's just them, and I'm like, oh, that's so expressive. I love it, you know?
Yeah, like you don't have to, it's kind of that whole idea of don't save your best pieces.
Totally.
Because otherwise it's like, you know, and with everything, right? With clothes, jewelry, whatever, because if we kind of put everything on a shelf and wait, and it's like super precious, you know, like silks and whatever, it's like, I mean, you're probably not going to wear it to the dog park with your kids, but you can wear it out for dinner with your girlfriends, and you know, and it's just kind of have more fun and just dress up. Like, you don't have to wait for the big like event of the year to pull something out. And then I find too, it also helps to build your muscle, so to speak, around taking fashion risks, because and same thing with makeup. Like if you're only in the habit of like wearing mascara and chapstick all the time, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's like date night and I want a smoky eye, but I haven't worn any makeup. Go from like 0 to 100 feels like a big jump. Whereas if you've kind of gotten in the habit of just playing on a more day-to-day basis,
It's true.
it makes it stretches your comfort zone and your sort of your sense of what you're capable of, you know? All right, I'm keeping an eye on our time here. So one or two more questions and I think we'll wrap up. I feel like I could just keep talking with you, but
I know, this is really fun.
so where do you like to, so this is for Calgary. Where are some of your favorite places to shop? Both more on the like kind of budget, wallet friendly side of things, and then also on the more upscale, like really splashing out, you know, not a huge budget concern. Where are some of your favorite, maybe like a little bit less obvious places that people might not know about to shop at?
Okay, so as far as like stuff that's not super expensive and not going to break the bank, but you want a fun piece for either a dress to go out with your girlfriends or like a cute sweatshirt, I really love Bamboo Ballroom. It's in Mount Royal Village, and Stacy has so many cute things: sunglasses, earrings, dresses. Okay, I think occasionally she has shoes as well. I really, really like her store. Also, I think you know Kate Hugo.
Yeah.
It's walking distance from there.
Yeah.
And she has some really cute stuff too, more accessories and faux fur and things like that. But those I think are great for like local boutiques. So you want to just get something quickly for a night out, and you don't have to be so price conscious there. As far as like buying a piece for an event that you're not worried about the price, there's two places that I would recommend. Like Blues women's wear, I love because they carry a ton of Canadian designers, and that to me, it's an investment in our own culture in Canada and our designers. So I really love that, and they I think have two locations in Calgary, Bankers Hall and South Centre. And then Sheer Luxury in Inglewood, and she has a lot of Canadian designers. She carries Andrea's jewelry.
Andrea Belez? How do you say her last name? Yeah.
I believe so, but I love her stuff, and they carry it there. They carry Untitled, which who I just saw in Toronto Fashion Week. They have such beautiful dresses. So they have a really nice selection of stuff. I mean, those things are pricier because they're made in Canada by Canadian designers.
Right.
And obviously it costs more to make things here, but the quality is spectacular. And those to me are an investment piece. Like, you're going to buy that dress and you're going to bring it out at least once a year.
Yeah. Inglewood seems to be a bit of like a hub for more kind of local Canadian designers. Would you agree with that? There seems to be.
I mean, there's SP Boutique too in Inglewood, right? She carries a lot of Canadian designers, and she carries basics as well. She carries like Centular jackets, which are, you know, are more expensive, but it's a luxury item and like an outerwear item. She carries a lot of really great brands as well. So yeah, Inglewood has a lot of really cool boutiques for walking around and shopping.
Yeah, Inglewood's a neat area. It's neat seeing that area really change and develop over the years.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. What is your best beauty or style purchase under $100 and over $500?
Okay.
Two.
Best beauty purchase?
Or style, whatever you've bought that you loved under 100.
I'm just trying to think, because one of my girlfriends just had a birthday and I went to Sephora and bought her like all my favorite stuff. And definitely I bought her that dry shampoo, that black charcoal mask, but like if it's one thing, lipstick.
Lipstick.
Yeah, because you can be looking like complete garbage and you put on red lipstick and you feel alive.
Yeah.
So that's under, like best thing I think is just lipstick, like a red lipstick or like a nice bright color of lipstick that just, you know, wakes your face.
Totally. Yeah. And over 500.
Over 500. For beauty thing?
Yeah, beauty, style, anything that you've got that you really think was like a favorite thing that brings you like a lot of pleasure or confidence whenever you put it on, or
and one specific thing is hard. There's a lot of things. I mean, I'm also like, I really love perfume, and I know that's not over $500, but I think that's like a really nice luxury. That perfume.
Let's talk about perfume for a minute, because it's funny, I was going to ask you about perfume.
Yeah.
I love fragrance. I have always worn fragrance.
Love
Now,
it.
okay, so two questions. How do you feel about sort of this like sensitivity that that people shouldn't wear perfume? And then question B is, are you monogamous to fragrance, or do you date around? Do you have lots of different fragrances for different moods and seasons?
No, I have one fragrance, like always one fragrance. And I have it here on my desk. It's Coco Mademoiselle by Chanel.
Okay.
I have it in my car. I have it in my bathroom. I have one in my closet.
Yeah.
No, I worked for Chanel for I think like 4 years for the Beauté division. And so we learned about how the fragrances were made, and I love Chanel fragrances. So the sensitivity, I do get it though, because and I've had people sit beside me wearing like, do you remember Red Door?
Oh, Elizabeth Arden?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. It's like, it like hits the back of my nose and I feel nauseous.
I'm like that with Terry Mugler Angel.
Oh, that one's heavy too. It's very heavy.
If within like a room is wearing it, I'm like, I need to leave. Like I can't handle that perfume at all.
So to avoid people's sensitivities, what I do, which is again probably not healthy for my hair, but I spray perfume in my hair and before I get dressed. And then I blow dry my hair, and I just hope that it's infused into my hair.
Right. So just like a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. Like you basically, and that's how they explained it. I remember when I worked with Chanel, was like spray it and like walk into it.
And walk. Yeah.
Just like spray it like that.
Like everywhere. Yeah. And then you can pat, but don't rub, because that can break down the like fragrance.
But I only wear eau de parfum. I don't wear the eau de toilettes because it's mostly alcohol based and it's not good for your skin. So I'm like, if you're gonna wear perfume, may as well just wear perfume.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I love that Mademoiselle. It reminds me, I have a good girlfriend of mine. I used to live in Montreal, and she wore that perfume. And
right? I feel like the people who wear that one religiously.
Yeah, and whenever I smell it, it always reminds me of Montreal and my friend Veronique. It reminds me a lot of her.
And I read an article recently saying that if you have a signature scent, that you are a more attractive person because people are familiar to you and people think of you when they smell it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with that, and I'm just gonna keep wearing the same fragrance.
I've worn the same perfume for like over 20 years.
Which one do you wear?
I wear Dolce & Gabbana, the one with the original red top, and it's got the like gold band.
Yeah, I know it. That's a really nice fragrance.
I love it. And, periodically I'll pick up something else. And like for a summer, I might wear, I got into Yves Saint Laurent Baby Doll when that came out, that like pink. It was really
Yes, I loved that too. I was in university, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember out, and it had that jeweled bottle with the black top.
Bottle. Yeah. And I loved that. And that was like my party perfume. Like I would wear that on a Friday night when I was going out. So periodically, or in the summer, like I might lighten it up a little bit, but I find it always, I always have a bottle of my fragrance on it's like sits in my wardrobe where I get dressed. And same thing, I just do a tiny little bit, and I hope that it's not going to offend anybody, and if I know I'm going to go see like a newborn, or if I'm going to like a hospital or something, obviously I won't, but otherwise I have to admit, I wear fragrance like all the time.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's so good for you. Like that's the thing. I remember that one lady got diagnosed with breast cancer who we worked with, not at Chanel, but she worked for another fragrance line, and she was told by her doctor not to wear fragrances anymore. And I was like, oh, maybe it's not as great as I thought.
Oh, well,
so I think that's why they don't allow it in hospitals and stuff. But
and partly it's the scent, right? Because the scent can be irritating too. Well, that's something to look into. I mean, I try to not come from like a fear-based place around the products that we're using, but I try to be practical and reasonable, right? Where it's like, okay, if there's real proof that something might not be healthy, or like how you said, like is that partly why you put it in your hairs to keep it off your skin? Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
it's nice too. I feel like when you give someone a hug and they smell your hair and it smells like fragrance, it's like there's something very endearing about that.
Yeah.
Very personal.
Well, like our friend Stasha, our mutual friend Stasha,
Yeah.
she always has, I think she's changed up her fragrance, but it
Oh,
still kind of smells the same. Like there's still the
yeah.
same smell. And every time I get in her car or I give her a hug, I'm like, oh, there's Stasha, like,
Yeah,
like people just have this, like, your best friends just have this, like,
totally.
this scent because, I think around appearance and how we want to be, like, a big part of what I talk about and teach
Yeah.
to be memorable,
Yeah.
and I think we want to try to hit on all the senses when we can, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I love things that are very flowy. Like, I'm a sucker for, like, fringe and flow,
Yeah.
and part of that's because it's the movement, right? Like, there's a lot of
Right.
movement, and then fragrance, we're hitting on the power of scent. Obviously, our eyes, like when it comes to color and fit and all those kinds
Yeah.
of things. And then I even love sound, like, not being super noisy, but I'm a sucker for, like, jangly bracelets and,
That's so
right, like, because it's sound, and, like, just like a little bit of a charm bracelet or something like
yeah, I like it too.
that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's probably everything for today. So Katrina, can you tell everyone again how they can connect with you? So we've got
Yeah.
Canif,
Yeah.
and then also your personal blog address as well for anyone that's
Yeah,
interested
mine is
in
just
following you.
Katrina Olson, olson.ca. And then my Instagram is at Katrina Olson with, again, olson.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for all your time today. And